We're on. Hey everybody, how are you today? Morning? Well, more like early afternoon. We're going to talk a little bit about the assignment, so to give you a little help on that. It's not nearly as intimidating as you think, and it's kind of interesting. It's going to give you some help for the midterm. Now, speaking of the midterm, there's a midterm that will be sent out right after the end of week 5. So at the end of week 5, it's kind of a busy weekend because you've got an assignment and you've got a midterm. Now, the thing that we've done in the past is we try and get together on the Saturday before the midterm, and we can go over some stuff for the people that are in the area. So if you're interested in doing that, we should get together and we can find a place that's close, Bridgeport Mall, the Barnes & Noble, or the campus, anywhere you want, and we can sit down and talk about some things for a couple hours. And now don't tell Merrillhurst this, but they used to pay for, like if I bought a pizza and coffee, they'd reimburse me. Well, now they don't. That's just the way it goes. I'm just kidding. There's nothing wrong with that. But no, they don't reimburse us anymore. But I would buy anyway. And we'll just sit down and talk statistics for a couple hours and help you get ready for the midterm. Anyway, so let's take a look at the assignment. And this will suffice for the video this week because I think the week that's coming up it's confidence intervals dealing with proportions. So it's close to the same thing. I think you'll be all right. All right, now in the assignment, I have it right here. It says choose any two of the following 3 projects. All right, well, here's the first one. Now, let's take a look at the confidence interval formula for, I'm going to move the camera here, for the mean. And remember, section 8.1 is when you know the population standard deviation. So you know the population standard deviation, but you don't know the mean. Obviously, that's the reason for the confidence interval. All right? So what you would do is you take a sample, you would put the sample mean here, you would put the sample size here, you would put that z value, which is 1.65 for 90%, 1.96 for 95%, and then 2.57 for 95%. Those 3 that we gave you. And this would give you the range in which the population mean actually resided from the sample. All right? So, and in the second formula, 8.2, you're doing the same thing, except you're using S, which is the standard deviation from the sample itself. Now, this is the one that occurs more often in statistics because you probably don't know the standard deviation of the population of which you're trying to find a confidence interval for, although you could. But this is the one that's more important. All right, so in the assignment, it asks you to, if you choose to do project 1, it doesn't take any cell in the spreadsheet and you put in the mean of the sample. So let's say the mean of the sample was 80. All right? You take another cell, doesn't really matter what it is, and you take the size of the sample. Let's say it's 9. Or no, that's sample size. All right? And then another cell in the spreadsheet, you take the population standard deviation, which let's say it's 10. Now, once you put those 3 numbers in a cell in the spreadsheet, you've got the population standard deviation, the sample size, the sample mean, and then you put a z value in. So that z value is either that 1.65, 1.96, or 2.57. So you just, the one you choose, depending upon your confidence level. And then you build a spreadsheet calculator which finds this confidence interval. So what it does is it takes, you have some cell in here, you have some cell on the spreadsheet which takes the population standard deviation, divides it by the square root of the sample size and multiplies it by z, and finds that number and automatically puts it in a spreadsheet cell. Then you have another cell that takes that population mean and subtracts it from the cell that computed this stuff. And then what happens is you end up with two cells on your spreadsheet that are the ending points of the confidence interval, and you didn't have to do it by hand. So that on the midterm, when you're going to have to find lots of confidence intervals, you will be able to use your Excel-based calculator because it just does all the math for you. So that's all you're doing, is you're building a spreadsheet to do the confidence interval math for you, and you're just supplying it with these pieces of information. All right? Now, on the second problem, if you choose to do that, it's closely related, and it takes a little more work. All right? Now, this assumes that you know how to do things with the spreadsheet, like take a cell that will divide one cell by the other or multiply one cell by the other. And these are kind of things that people in business should be relatively comfortable with, is building some spreadsheet models. And then this thing could always be used also in your professional life. All right, now on the second problem, if you choose it, you will put in five sample values that you get from a sample. And then, from those 5 sample values, you can program the spreadsheet, or there's a function in it, to find the mean of these 5 values, and then the standard deviation of these 5 values. So then you would have a spreadsheet that had the sample mean, it would have the sample standard deviation directly from the 5 samples itself, and then it would compute a confidence interval. So then, once you had this and this, you would supply the sample size, which is going to be 5. We've made it so that you only put a sample size of 5 in it. And you would also put the t-value in it from the table, because the t-value is based on the degrees of freedom, right? And this one, the z-value, is not based on the degrees of freedom. Here it is. So it would do the same thing. Then it would calculate a confidence interval from the 5 sample values, and it would just do it automatically. So that if you want to, if you have 5 sample values, you can find the confidence interval instead of actually doing the math by hand with a calculator with this formula. Then on the final, you're going to have to find a couple of confidence intervals. You can just use this spreadsheet calculator you built. And I'm not very specific on how you build it or anything else. You just want a spreadsheet calculator that'll find a confidence interval of a mean when you're given the population standard deviation, and then one that'll find the confidence interval for the mean when you're given the 5 samples. So you can choose both of those, and then you've done it, or one of those and then the third one. Now the third one is a little tricky. It's not a little tricky, it takes a little engineering, but I'm kind of going to leave that up to you. It'd be pretty neat if some people tried it. So these will help you on the midterm, because there's going to be some confidence intervals on the midterm. And then by building the formula, you get a better feel for how the confidence interval works. All right, so I hope that clears it up a little. You can call me if you need any more help, and I'll also post some stuff. And just take your time and get it done so you're satisfied with it, and then upload it this week. So other than that, everybody's been doing a great job of helping each other. Remember, those posts are where you put in your answer, and if it requires somebody else to respond, then somebody needs to respond. And then the two of you get together and iron out anything you have. And if not, you just say, Greg, we don't get this, so step in and help, and I will do that. And I'm looking at them all anyway, and so far so good. So have a beautiful fall evening, and we will talk about getting together and setting up a time before the midterm. Okay, thank you very much. Bye.